So I've pretty much been into fishing most of my life. I have my dad to thank for that one because he was mad keen.
What have you been doing, Sam? Have you been helping Dad get the snapper filleted?
I was just on a boat from when I was a baby, really. Then, yeah, after my injury, I sort of thought, oh, yeah, surely this can continue, why not? For me, fishing, it's about kind of just being out there, and it teaches you patience for one, and, you know, patience is a big part of life for me now. The way you do things is going to be different to how they were beforehand, but it's what life is now. Hey, I'm Sam, I'm a C5 tetraplegic and I'm 24 years old. The beach is awesome, eh? Been real privileged to grow up within close proximity to the beach. It's a good place to sort of unwind and relax, you know. There's nothing really like having a quiet evening down the beach, fishing, whether that's with a couple mates or on your own. But there's sort of something real peaceful about just looking at the water, and it's a good place to be, eh? It's a good place to be. After my injury, I was real focused on getting back on the beach. That was one of my goals from the start. In terms of fishing, I sort of thought, oh yeah, just chuck a rod in and make a little rod holder for it, and got the beach wheelchair now. I can get on the beach, so why don't I see if I can try fishing off the beach? And the drone was kind of a thing, and give that a nudge, and it worked pretty well. Yeah, sweet, grab out those baits. I reckon we'll chuck on some mullet and a bit of bonito, so maybe some of that. Nice. The white stuff. Chuck 2 of those on the bottom hook. With drone fishing, you have a drone, you have a reel and a rod. Typically, you probably set it up as an electric reel because you're going and dropping baits quite far offshore. Basically, you set up hooks and a trace and a sinker onto your main line like you sort of do with any type of fishing, really. That fresh mullet's probably better. Actually, might even be worth chucking another hook on just with another piece of mullet on. You have a clip system on the drone and that hooks into the line. The tension releases it, or you can have like an automatic system where you press a button, it drops it. But essentially you drop it out using one of these methods and you sort of cruising on the beach and just waiting. And you just crank it in when you get a bite and get a fish, and Bob's your uncle. For me, fishing, it's about kind of just being out there, and it's just relaxing.
Morning. Good sleep?
Oh, yeah, not the best, eh? Been pretty busy lately. Yeah, you got those medications? My injury's a complete injury, so pretty much means that I've got minimal to zero function below my level of injury. Basically what that means is from C5 kind of up, everything's sort of intact. I've got good strength in my biceps and shoulder muscles. I've got a wee bit of wrist function. Everything is good to that C5 level, and then below that it's predominantly paralysed. So everything sort of like relaxes overnight, and in the morning I just do a few stretches. It's good to sort of get a bit of movement back in the joints and muscles again, just to stretch everything out for the day. I guess like the stretching helps at least sort of ease and relax the legs. First thing in the morning, as soon as like a bit of movement or whatever, it just like triggers the spasms. You stretch like all the muscles right out, and it sort of reduces the spasm, at least sort of temporarily. But yeah, it's always a constant thing, especially like being in the wheelchair for most of the day. It's one of those things, like I'm not too bad, and there are some positives to spasms as well. You know, it keeps a bit of tone in your muscles and helps the blood flow around a bit better and stuff. So it's not all like negative, but yeah, they are pretty annoying a lot of the time. So basically I've got 24/7 care. My care team helps get me ready for the day, getting out of bed in the morning, getting showered, dressed, going to the toilet.
Sweet, and what would you like for breakfast?
I just have cereal, I just have bran. You know, they're awesome. They pretty much become a part of your family because you see them every day. where I'm at in terms of my independence with my injury. Is still not driving yet, so that's still a goal of mine in the future, but to get to anywhere I need someone to drive me, so care team helps with that. I still can't do a lot fully independently. I need help with things, and that's the reality of it now. It does take a lot of time to come to terms with that, and I still kind of am coming to terms with it, to be honest, but you still tack away at it. Like, I'm 6 years on from my injury now, but it's definitely still a work in progress.
Just need to come back a little bit, if you can.
Let's get you sitting up first.
So basically, I had my injury end of 2014. Just had Christmas. Came home for New Year's. I just graduated high school as well, so I was sort of like looking forward to a bit of a New Year's with my mates before a lot of us headed off to uni. We had our skateboards and skated to a reserve that we used to go sort of hang out, chill. Quite often there's a tree we'd climb and just sort of sit out there and watch the sunset. Climbed up to the top and the boys were sort of following me. I was pretty confident that it'd be sweet, you know, that if anything happened, then the branches beneath me would sort of catch me. But I was sort of on the top side where there wasn't any branches beneath it. I remember trying to put my feet out to the branch in front of me, and then my foot slipped. That caused me to spin out of the tree. I was just trying to grab and reach for anything that I could, but obviously I was just reaching for thin air, essentially. I just remember landing back onto my back and just like a real loud crunch. My whole body just was full of pins and needles, and yeah, I couldn't move. And I just knew something was seriously wrong. I told the boys, like, you know, ring the ambulance. And then sort of after that, it kind of starts to get a bit hazy.
They mentioned that the first 24 hours was quite critical, that he ideally get some surgery to relieve pressure on the spinal cord. He went into, needing help to breathe.
He was on a ventilator for like a whole month in ICU.
We were following the doctors, and the x-rays were being explained to us, and yeah, it was definitely a fairly daunting time for us. I think the acceptance from a parent can be quite challenging.
I guess it was, pretty big for everyone who was sort of close to me. It affects more than just yourself. It's sort of the people that are close to you around you and your support networks. Coming back, sort of realised it's a bit sort of bigger than I remember. Looking up at it now, especially from sitting down in a wheelchair and going, oh, that's pretty big, you know. But I guess it's just where my injury happened. It's not something to be upset about. I had a lot of good memories here as well, but that day changed everything. I knew I wasn't going to get up, being like, oh, yeah, sweet. Bounce back from this one. I knew, like, nah, this is probably going to change my life. Yeah, sweet, that'll do. That'll be sweet. Back when I first had my injury, it was like really scary because there was all these unknowns. But for me, it was actually real hard about probably a year or two after my injury, where everything sort of plateaued a bit. And you kind of realize, oh, I'm not really getting any progression anymore. And that was real tough. I definitely feel like I had to grow up pretty quickly. All your mates are off doing stupid shit, and you kind of realize you just can't be living like that anymore. You got to be getting on with things and be mature, and that's kind of the only way forward. That was a weird time because I've been at school for 13 years. Everyone's getting amped for uni, everyone's getting amped to begin careers in the workforce or do a gap year, whatever it is. And then you're kind of just getting your level of independence. But as a result of one mistake, one thing going wrong, you're just not on that same path as you thought you were going to be, and that's pretty upsetting, especially initially when all you want to do is just get on with it like everyone else. You almost feel like you're back to square one again. You're like, ah. So I was planning to head off to university. I was sort of looking at going into a Bachelor of Science. When my injury happened, I was forced to pull out these courses and all these things which I'd kind of prepared in anticipation for. A couple years after my injury, tried a couple different papers here and there through sort of correspondence. Nothing really jumped out at me, but I sort of continued down that science path. I did all good with my grades and stuff, but I just didn't really feel quite right anymore. I was sort of tossing up whether I was going to go back to uni or not, and kind of realised that I wanted to have a slight change of degree, so I switched to Massey University and I switched to a Bachelor of Resource and Environmental Planning degree. So that's what I've been doing for about the last year and a half now. Sort of had to start from square one because most of my papers that I had done in the last few years didn't credit over, but hey, it's all good, you know, give it a crack. It's tough. You know, I was driving, I was doing all these things. You know, I was essentially almost ready to go live my own life. And something like this happens, boom, like it just changes. And then you're sort of stuck in this weird limbo state where everyone else, you know, is still doing those exact same things. You think, shit, I should be there too. Driving is gonna be a big one for me. Getting to a point where I can get myself from A to B on my own and not having to rely on someone would be huge. So basically, me and one of my carers, Pete, we sort of decided to come up with a bit of a steering wheel strengthening device because it was one of the things I identified, which was a bit weak in terms of looking at driving options. We thought, well, we might as well just actually try and replicate it as best we can. So we thought, oh yeah, we'll just get a steering wheel and make a little table to wheel up to and chuck some weights on, and then as the weights lift up, the nylon pulls it up onto the cord, and then you just release it and go back the opposite way. And it seems to work pretty well in terms of trying to replicate that movement for steering. You hit this kind of plateau, but you kind of realise that you can get growth in other areas. It's not all just about physically being better all the time. You can grow mentally as well, and you kind of go through phases where you kind of realise, oh, no, I can probably push it hard physically, and maybe this is possible, which I'd kind of written off that it wasn't going to happen. Life isn't exactly the same as it was beforehand. But then you also got to realise it never is for anybody. Life's always changing, but for me it was just, life changed in an instant. You kind of just got to try and get to some level of acceptance at some point because you can't get anything done otherwise, really. Yeah.
You want me to do it?
I'm doing
Pull it in, come on.
In terms of fishing, it's something that I've just continued on with from when I was a kid.
Sam, do it.
Can you do it?
Sam, do it.
Early on, I just wanted to get back on the boat and just get back in the saltair and wanted to be a part of what I used to do.
Come on, team. Pull it in.
I was still on the beach fishing and on the boat fishing like I was pre-injury. Obviously, physically, can't do quite as much, but you kind of look at different ways. The enjoyment's still there, so why not continue on? You might just have to pull my brake off and just wheel me out.
We're fortunate this boat that we've had since 1996 is actually well suited and got quite a nice big cockpit for him to be able to get out there and do some fishing.
Boat's gone, eh?
There you go.
Oh, maybe not.
I guess fishing is a patience game. You know, we find if we move too often, we don't catch too many fish, so it's about waiting it out, really. Wait or...
Just to wait for a bit.
We've got a good set today, we've got good conditions. Yeah, there's hope yet.
Got a bit of a setup here with the electric reel and rod, and get it casted out for me, and got a little bar set up here and flick it out and drop it as I need, and yeah, it works pretty good, eh? At the moment, it's sort of just trying to catch most probably snapper style of fishing we're doing. It's called stray lining, and casting back, pumping a burley trail and hoping you bring sort of the fish to you. You're hoping that the fish come off the sand, off the reef, and follow your line.
bite, Sam. Good fun. Mate, there's another one. The right one's got it.
Yeah, Dad definitely probably taking the hardest. Don't know if he'd want me saying that, but yeah.
What do you think, Sam?
Like a Hawaii.
You reckon?
Yeah.
It's been a big adjustment for me. There was this young adult doing all these things and his life changing so dramatically. It's a big thing for me to take. But yeah, we gain strength by his strength. Oh, there it is, a kahawai. Takes everything in his stride. His chill factor is there. I think it's more often he says, Dad, don't worry about it. I'm more of a worrier. Here we go, we've got a fish. He's my fishing mate. He's always had an interest. It seems like he's releasing from all the hassles of land. How's that?
Good keeper, eh?
That's good stuff. That's us, eh?
Something about it which I guess brings a bit of peace to your life. You're just cruising. And if you catch something for dinner, it's bloody bonus. You're always glad you went. You're tired, you sleep well. Everything's bloody awesome.
But you've got the wheelchair rugby swim tomorrow.
Yeah, no. Should be good, eh? You've got to keep those South Islanders in line, eh?
Yeah, man, honestly.
Hey, you shouldn't give me a hand up this,
Okay, that's easier.
I guess it was, pretty big for everyone who was close to me. It affects more than just yourself. It's sort of the people that are close to you around you and your support networks. Zach, we were real good mates before my injury. He was with me when I had my injury, and he's one of my still best mates now.
People just driving past in their cars and like, why is this guy...
Our group, whenever the times are getting tough, our group comes together and we consider Milo, our dog, essentially the heart of it.
You want to play?
Oh, no, I'll be right, bro.
You sure?
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, there was definitely a few key mates that were like, you'd ask them and they'd always sort of go the extra mile. It was awesome to sort of have that support network. If you're in your early stages of your injury, try and build a good support network. Get out there and look for ways that you can build those support networks because it was bloody tough early on and it still is hard, but it does get easier and a lot of that is the people you surround yourself with. So you want to make sure you're around these people that are pushing you in the right direction. Cheers, guys. Anyway, cheers for coming out.
You too, mate. Cheers. Thanks for having us, mate.
He just dug into it. He had no choice to. And he always said that if you're in my position, you'd be doing the same thing because you either live or you don't.
Okay, we're videoing, guys.
That's how he's always viewed the whole thing. Simple as that.
So I decided to do a bit of a trip to Europe in a camper van for 3 months.
Europe was a yarn. It was crazy.
Come on, boys.
He rings me up. Bro, flights are booked. We have a rough plan, but we're just gonna go for it. And that was Sam. That was 100% Sam.
Sort of thought, nah, bugger it. It was awesome, eh? Bloody awesome.
So first night in the camper.
My care team and a few mates, they were just like, yeah, we'll sort you out and you'll be sweet.
A bit bigger than Pipma Hills, isn't it?
I went through Switzerland and Denmark and then sort of went across through Netherlands, Belgium, through a bit of UK, looped back around, did a bit of a skedaddle back down south, around the southern coast of France and ended up in Spain at Barcelona. You got these cobblestone streets, stairs are probably one of the biggest major pain in the asses, but there's ways of overcoming it and you navigate them, you make it work. You sort of just got to think about it a different way and see how you end up, you know, what's really the worst that can happen. It sort of opened up my eyes to think, shit, you can do a bit if you've got that good support network around you. You can do some pretty awesome things despite your injury.
Sam. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
With my level of injury, there's kind of not a lot of sports you can play, at least competitively anyway. Wheelchair rugby was kind of the thing I got introduced to pretty early on, actually.
Yeah, I saw that. Eh?
Cool.
I was always a pretty athletic and sporty person, so I always did want to kind of get back into some level of sport somehow. I sort of gave it a go, you know, a year to 2 years after my injury and didn't really enjoy it, to tell you the truth. The speed thing was a big thing. I came to this situation where I was the slowest on the court. I could get faster, but my level of injury, I was always going to be the slowest no matter what. And that just kind of really pissed me off because before my injury, I was always kind of one of the fastest players in my team and could run rings around most people. I didn't want to be that guy who was the slowest. I hated that. It was real hard getting through that mental battle. Kind of got the pip with it a bit. And started last year, and my mates said, oh, come on, man, give it another crack. So I came along to a few practices and oh, no, I'm actually getting along a lot better because I had all this practice of pushing the chair, and especially when I was overseas, you know, I was doing big kilometres and I'd sort of gotten stronger, and then I sort of started learning more of the tactics behind things, and if I positioned myself correctly, then I could be a valuable part of the team rather than just thinking, oh, I'm crap and I can't do anything, I'm too slow.
When Sam's on the court, his role is really strategic. He's got to be really smart on court because he doesn't have the level of function that some of those other crazy players have. He doesn't say much, but he's really dry and he's very wise and he listens and he just kind of stealths up on people. That's his strength right now, is his smarts. And all that's going to happen as time goes on, he's just going to get stronger and stronger. So we're quite excited about what the future holds for Sam.
Let's go, Red.
Let's go, Sam. Nice position, bud.
You learn patience, you have to. At the end of the day, you get too impatient, you just don't achieve anything. Once I sort of got into it a bit more and played a couple of tournaments and realised, damn, this is actually a challenge and it's competitive, and it's these things that I'd missed from not having any team sport for 5 years. Probably a real good thing to be involved with, I think.
Might be an empty line yet.
I think it's the line, might have fallen off. Is it a snapper? I guess you can learn, a bit from fishing.
Yeah, better just throw that one back, I think.
Teaches you that, shit, you might have a bad day and not catch anything.
Yeah, bro, chuck it back. Little, bro.
But there's always another day. You can't predict the future, so you just got to take each day as it comes. Something might go wrong, but generally it's not the end of the world. You can always give it a crack another time and continue on. I suppose that spills over into my life, you know.